All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. It's Friday, last session, and so thank you so much for making it, even though it's so late in the day. My name is Justina Luchnik. Really excited to be here with all of you. I am joined by my colleague, Nelly, and I am really sorry she's making me say this, but nice shirt, Nelly.
Oh, thank you, Justina. It's fabric.
Okay.
Come on, that was
so
good.
now that we have that done and over, yeah, I'm sorry. She came up with like a list of terrible jokes before the session. I vetoed most of them, but this was the compromise. So, okay, let's get going. So today we're going to be talking about Copilot in Microsoft Fabric, and there's going to be three main areas that we're going to be jumping in and focusing on for today. So the first area is really talking about how you can start accelerating your productivity with Copilot in Microsoft Fabric. We're going to go through a couple of the different experiences and basically show you how you can start leveraging Copilot to help you with your common tasks to be done, whether you're a data engineer, business analyst, data scientist, and so on. The second area is talking about how you can start actually leveraging Copilot to help you get insights in your data. So Microsoft Fabric, of course, caters to data professionals, also caters to end users. So we want to really make it easy to start using the power of Copilot to help you start connecting those insights with your end users as well. And finally, the third area we're going to be diving into is how you can start leveraging generative AI on top of your own data, how you can start creating AI skills, creating AI plugins, whether you're a professional developer or whether you're a low-code user. We're going to give you a sneak peek into some of the things that we're working on and what's going to be coming soon. Okay, so before we jump into the specific product experiences and the demos, let's just talk a little bit about Fabric for a second. And out of curiosity, just to kind of get a feel for the audience we have here today, how many of you have heard of Microsoft Fabric before? All right, so we're seeing quite a few hands. How many of you have tried it, actually tried the product? OK, so about like half of the audience I'm seeing. So just kind of to give a really quick overview, what is Fabric? So Fabric is our next generation data platform. We have GA'd it at Ignite, so really excited about that. And it basically helps you build your end-to-end data projects, right? So it has all these different workloads, which is what you're seeing on the slide right now, catering from Data Factory to help you bring all your data into Fabric. You can do data engineering with things like Spark, data science. You can build out your enterprise data warehouse. You can have elements of real-time analytics, Power BI for building out your reports, and Data Activator, which is our basically alerting, new alerting workload. And the thing about Fabric, what's new about it is really the fact that it's all powered by this unified platform, right? So this is a single product. It's not multiple different products that you have to go to. It's a single place you come in, and you have all of these different unified experiences that just power everything in the platform. So for example, we have OneLake, which is our SaaSified data lake, where all the data from all of the different workloads goes. You have things like unified governance, unified business models. We talked about the Purview Hub during Ignite, which is another new element that is coming in. And we're really excited, that the newest capability that is in here powering this platform is the AI capabilities. We are infusing all of these different workloads with AI, with Copilot. And as of Ignite, we're so excited to announce the public preview of Copilot in Microsoft Fabric. It is going to start rolling out this week. It's going to take some time to roll out everywhere. So if you're not seeing it yet, please be patient. It is coming. And so let's just, before we jump into the specific product experiences, let's just take a sneak peek into, what is the vision of Copilot in Microsoft Fabric. And let's play the
Next generation AI in Microsoft Fabric empowers you to unlock the full potential of your data. With Copilot integrated into every data experience, Microsoft Fabric lets you use natural language to bring your data to life. From integrating data to writing code, to finding insights and creating reports, new transformative AI experiences work alongside you every step of the way, so you can stay focused on getting value from your data. Copilot helps turn your words into data flows and data pipelines, so you can intelligently integrate data from anywhere. When writing code, Copilot automatically suggests code and entire functions in real time. And Copilot can guide you to create machine learning models to unlock insights in your data. Just by chatting with Copilot, you can visually explore your data to create stunning reports, discover insights, and summarize your data into easy-to-understand text narratives for sharing. With Copilot, you can turn insight into action with triggers that monitor your data and notify users. You can even create your own custom natural language experiences that combine Azure OpenAI models and your organization's data and easily publish your creations as plugins. And with your data in Fabric, Copilot provides insights and answers everywhere work gets done. Most importantly, Microsoft Cloud runs on trust, which means your data always remains your data. Bring your data into the era of AI with Microsoft Fabric.
All right, so let's get started by actually taking a look at some of the product experiences that are in public preview as of today. And the first one we're going to talk about is Data Factory. So as mentioned, Data Factory is about being able to connect to data, bring your data into Fabric. And as of today, we're releasing the public preview of Copilots for data flows. So with data flows using Copilot, you can essentially leverage natural language to start interacting with your data. You're going to see this Copilot chat pane. That's going to be something that's a consistent experience across all the different Fabric workloads, as you'll see. And you can just start interacting with natural language to help you essentially build out your data transformation data flows. Another really cool thing with the data flows, which we're going to show you in the demo, is the fact you can really tap into the knowledge base of, of Azure OpenAI. This is all these experiences are powered by Azure OpenAI, so you can go beyond your data model. We'll take a look at what that means. And just leveraging Copilot for being able to automate all of those different mundane tasks, something that might have taken 20 clicks can now essentially be done in a single query. So let's jump over to the monitor and let's actually take a look at the demo and see what these experiences look like. OK, so let's go ahead and jump into this. So over here, we are in our data flow experience. And you're going to see on the right-hand side, we have our Copilot pane. And so I'm just going to start with just interacting with my natural language, asking it to just describe the query. Maybe I've already been doing some work, so I just want to understand, maybe catch up on what I've already done over here. So you can see over here, we're connecting to our Northwind database. We're filtering out some of the data from the US. And so, OK, now I've kind of got an overview of what we've already done. I'm going to ask Copilot to help me actually create a query that joins my order details with the orders table. And you'll notice over here that I use the word join. Now, in data flows, the actual terminology would have been something like merge. But again, I don't have to use very precise language over here. I can just describe it in the language that I'm, would be comfortable using or what I'd use typically. And Copilot will go ahead and understand that. OK, so now we've gone ahead and we can see the merge has occurred. We're going to keep going and ask Copilot to only keep those orders that ship to the US. And at any point, I can go and jump back into Power Query. In this case, I can go and actually take a look at the data, make sure that everything is showing up correctly. At the top, I can actually see the steps that I'm carrying out. Everything looks good. Let's do something more complex now. Let's go and actually ask Copilot to help us group by name and region and do a summation, add up the quantity. Again, Copilot thinks for a second, and there we go. We can see it has created us the summarized table looking at shipping regions, shipping names, and total quantity. We can even do simple things like, just rename this column to abbreviations. And there we go. Copilot is just going to add this step after step. And of course, I can jump in. For example, in this case, I want to rename the table. At any point, I can jump in with my own manual updates as well. OK, this one is really cool. We're going to ask Copilot to actually create a new query that contains state name, abbreviation, and FIPS code. This is not in my data right now, right? We're actually going to tap into Azure OpenAI, and it's going to go ahead and create this completely new table for me from scratch, even though it's not part of my existing data. So it's gone ahead and basically created this table for me. Everything looks pretty good here. Again, I'm just going to rename the table to FIPS. And now I actually want to join this table that was generated completely by Copilot and join it back with my original data. And again, we can see Copilot goes ahead, carries out this transformation. We can see the join. Even things like moving my columns around, right? Hey, move my ship name all the way to the left. Copilot is going to just go ahead and do that for me as well. Now, sometimes I might want to do something like might often take me many, many different steps in Power Query, such as just adding a space for all of my column headers. And again, I can just say, hey, apply this to all of my columns, and Copilot will just do that automatically for every single column for me. I don't have to go and specify this one by one. OK, so to wrap up, let's go ahead and actually ask Copilot to create us a calendar table. What it's going to do now is actually going to automate something that takes over 20 Power Query steps. And it's going to go and carry this out in this single query, right? So we're going to go and create a calendar table starting all the way from 2017. How many times have you created calendar tables before? How many times did you promise yourself you're going to keep that script and then you don't? Well, you don't have to anymore. Copilot is just going to go and automatically create that for you in a matter of a single click. OK, so thank you. So there you go. You saw how you can start leveraging Copilot today with experiences like your data flows. So to talk about some of the data science and data engineering experiences, I'm going to go ahead and hand over to Nelly.
All right, thank you, Justina. So let's talk about data science and data engineering, because once you have your data landed, let's say in a lakehouse, and you can do that from the data flows. You can use data flows destinations. You can land your data in the lakehouse. And then now your data engineers and data scientists want to use this data to be able to transform it further. To transform it further, to be able to enrich it with machine learning models, right? But before we get there, I know we did a hands up on how many people have used these experiences. How many of you are familiar with notebook experiences in general? Raise of hands. All right, almost half the room. That's great. Thanks for sharing that. Well, let's now talk about how we want to have AI help you with these workloads again. As Justina mentioned, in Fabric, we can walk you through and support you through the entire analytics workflow. And once the data has landed in a lakehouse, now we can basically use notebooks, work with the data in the lakehouse, and start enriching this data, for example, but also exploring it and further prepare this data. Then you can use notebooks in Fabric, for example, to automate work. You can also use Spark jobs to automate these scripts. So all the code that Copilot, for example, helps you to author, and all the problems that Copilot helps you to solve, you can basically automate pretty easily in Fabric as well. So let's take a look at how Copilot for data science and data engineering, what that experience looks like, and how we can help to improve productivity for developers in our notebooks. All right, so here I'm in the Fabric notebook experience. And as I mentioned, notebooks are great code authoring tools, and they can also help you to automate things. So you don't necessarily have to automate things through jobs. You can also, in Fabric, just schedule a notebook. So it's actually a very lightweight way to operationalize code. So here in this notebook, you see that I have some data in the lakehouse. And the nice thing about the Fabric notebooks is that you get that easy access to data, and you can easily work with the data that you have. So for example, in this case, we have transformed this data using data flows. We landed in a lakehouse, and now we can just start working with this. So you see here that I have some sales data in this specific lakehouse, and I've loaded that data into a Spark data frame. So next, we're actually going to go and convert that data into a Pandas data frame, just because it gives us a lot more APIs for data exploration and data visualizations. Next, we're going to open up the Copilot pane. And in this case, we want to get started with some of the prompts that you see here. So for example, you see here that there are some static suggestions. And this is one of the things that I personally love about the Copilot experiences. And you're going to see this consistently across all of Fabric, in that, as Justina mentioned, you have this chat pane, but you also get these suggestions. So you don't necessarily have to start from scratch. Like if you have no idea what to do, and it's the first time you're using a notebook, you're not a Python developer, it's really easy to get started with some of these suggestions. So in this case, we can just say, let's suggest some data visualizations on top of this data that I just loaded in my data frame. I'm just going to replace the actual name in the static prompt with the name of my data frame. And then we can run this. So what's going to happen now is that we're basically asking Azure OpenAI again, it's all powered by Azure OpenAI, to propose, using the large language models, some visualization specifically on this data. Now, what's interesting here in this experience is also that when you're working in a session in a notebook, right, and you have a bunch of data, for example, in the lakehouse that's attached to your notebook, but you also have a set of data in your session, in the memory. in your data frames, right? And you may have multiple different data frames. So Copilot has awareness of this data. So the names of the data frames, the different tables. So that also gives you convenience in that you can actually reference, for example, and say, hey, give me visualizations on top of the sales data. And in this case, Copilot understands that we actually mean the sales data that's sitting in the data frame, in the pandas data frame that we were asking for. And Copilot returns code. Copilot also returns explanations. In this case, we're adding the code back to the notebook, and we're running that code, right? So this is the AI-generated code, and you are always in charge of running that code. So that's an important point to call out, that we can generate code, you can basically inspect the code, and then you choose to run the code in the notebook. And here you can see that Copilot gave us a visualization of a breakdown of products per category, for example. And in this way, we can continue. But now, if you look at some of these little suggestion pills that we have here to the right, Copilot also gives you dynamic suggestions. And this is purely based on, let's say, the conversation that you've had, the conversation history that you've had, and the task that Copilot thinks that you're trying to solve. So essentially, based on the intention that you seem to be having, Copilot can give you some other suggestions of next steps. And again, this is very good when you're kind of starting with a blank canvas, you kind of just exploring the data. Exploratory data analysis, a big part of data science, right? So in this case, we're actually going to go ahead and we're going to select the suggestion that Copilot had of looking at the trend of total sales over time. And again, same pattern. Copilot is going to give us a set of steps, explanations, but also code. You can add the code into your cell and execute that code, right? And again, one of the things that developers love is that to have this transparency, right? So you could actually tweak this code if you are a professional developer, you know how to do that, you can definitely tweak the code and make it your own, and then run that. And here you see some additional statistics that we have. But there's one more experience that's worth to call out when you're talking about the different modalities of Copilot in a notebook. So here, you see that Copilot is actually also available to us directly in the context of a code cell. And we actually get feedback from our private previews that this is one of the experiences that developers appreciate a lot, right? Because in this case, you can basically use the chat when you want to ask questions, but you can also do it directly from the cell. So here, by typing %% code, I'm basically telling Copilot that I want code generated for me, and I give it a prompt directly in a code cell. So what happens when you run these type of commands, these magic commands, chat magic commands in the cell, and we have more of them. We also have %% chat, there's commands to fix errors, etc. You can see that Copilot is now going to generate a code cell right below. So the pattern is slightly different, but the concept is essentially the same. Copilot is helping you along, proposing code. You can choose to execute that. In this case, we want to train a machine learning model, so it's a bit more complex code in this case. We're actually asking Copilot to build us a machine learning model to do a sales forecast on top of the data frame that we had. And let's see how Copilot did. So in this case, it's using a simple it's building a simple machine learning model using scikit-learn. And once it's done, you're going to basically see that code cell. But here you also see that when we run the code cell, we now have a machine learning run. And in Fabric, we also have support for MLflow. In this case, we also have support for auto-logging, for those who are familiar with that. So we automatically capture and create a machine learning experiment for you. And you see here that it's a linear regression model that was created. And that's great, because now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add another code cell. I'm going to run %% code. And I want to land the predictions, the forecasted values from this machine learning model. I want to land them in the lakehouse. And I'll tell you in a bit why I want to land them in the lakehouse. And Copilot can help us with that. So every step along the way, as a developer, whether I'm a professional developer, done this for years, whether I'm a new Python developer, Copilot's going to help me. So in this case, we're saving the forecasted values back to a table called sales forecast. We can go back to our lakehouse. We can verify that the table is now there. And the nice thing about this is that by landing the data in the lakehouse, we're actually automatically making it available for Power BI reporting, thanks to the direct lake mode in Fabric. I hope that's something that you've heard earlier this week that we're talking about. It's one of the features that I'm personally most excited about because for data engineering and data science, this is just a game changer, right? I land my data in the lakehouse, and now BI analysts can directly iterate with me over this data if I'm a data scientist, right? They can access this data and they can start creating reports. So with this, Justina, why don't you show us how Copilot can help us build beautiful reports on top of this type of data?
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you, Nelly. Okay, so let's jump in and let's talk a little bit about the BI experiences as well. And let's jump back to slides. Okay, so we talked about how you can get your data in. We talked about how you can go and enrich that data with predictions. And so the third Copilot experience that is landing in public preview, which you can start trying out today, is the Business Intelligence Power BI one. So for Power BI, we of course want to empower our developers to go and help them build beautiful reports, as Nelly mentioned. We also have a couple of other areas of experiences where we're trying to empower our developers, which we're going to take a sneak peek of a look in just a second. But Power BI is really that area where we try and focus on that second pillar we talked about as well, which is really helping you start to get insights from that data. Right? So we want to be able to not just help you go and build those reports, but actually go and help you explore the data, help you understand the data, find insights, both with the Copilot chat pane, but also with experiences built directly into the Power BI report canvas. So with that, let's go ahead and play the demo, and let's take a look at the Power BI experiences as well. And let's see if I can there we go. Okay, so over here, I'm starting out in Power BI, and again, you'll see the very familiar Copilot chat pane that we saw in the previous experiences as well that I can just open up. And again, I have some suggestions, right, that I can just immediately get started with. So one thing I can do is just, hey, maybe I haven't built the data model, maybe I'm not that familiar with it. I just want to get some suggestions for the sort of content I can build with this report. So Copilot automatically looks at the data model. It helps me suggest some pages, for example, looking at things like opportunity performance by product or pipeline health, and I can just add those pages directly inside if I wish to do so. But I actually know what I want in this case. I'm going to create a page that looks at revenue and forecasts and pipeline by product. And there we go. Copilot was just able to automatically build me this beautiful report in just a matter of seconds. And now if I want to go and make any tweaks to this or do anything, I can go and make them myself. So it's just another report that I can go and iterate over. Now, in this case, I actually want Copilot to help me get some insights in my data. So what I've actually asked it over here, and let's just take a moment to look at that, right, is which product category has the most revenue won through promotions? So I just wrote that into the chat pane directly. Copilot automatically delivers me a natural language summary, letting me know, that which product category saw the most revenue. And it even gives me a citation. So I can go and actually see which visual is it capturing this information from. So again, we can kind of build that transparency and trust with the user. That it's not just a black box. We're kind of explaining what's going on. Where is this data coming from? Okay, so we can get these great insights from inside Copilot. Directly inside the reports. Now, there's some other, we want to sprinkle Copilot just all over the experience in Power BI as well. So over here, what you're seeing over here is the new Explorer capabilities in Power BI. This is also launching very, very fresh and new. And one of the things we're going to be adding, this isn't available yet, is just Copilot to help you essentially get an overview of your data. So this is a really lightweight experience for being able to get a feel for your data. And you can just have Copilot also help you kind of get a better insights as well. Now, the other area that we're focusing on is with Copilot being built more directly into the canvas itself. And so one of the things that we're investing in is basically Copilot-powered visuals in Power BI. And the first visual that we're sprinkling a little bit of Copilot into is the Q&A visual. This visual has existed for quite a while. Basically, you can interact with natural language and get charts back, and it's just a visual in the report. And in this case over here, if we take a look, we're asking about revenue by director. And Copilot is able to actually figure out that director means manager, So we can go and actually retrieve a visual, even though the term director is not actually defined inside my data model. So how are we able to do this? Well, what Copilot is actually doing is it's just scanning the entire data model and just automatically annotating this data model with synonyms for me. So if we jump into our Q&A tooling over here, you can actually see the little Copilot icon, and you can see all of the different synonyms that were added by Copilot. The other visual you can start playing with is the natural language summaries, narratives visual. So here we're basically asking Copilot to use a bulleted list, highlight some key insights, use informal language, and I can just kind of essentially give it this prompt and explain what I'm looking for it to do. And Copilot can just generate this visual, generate a narrative for me in the tone and language that I want. And again, everything just cross-filters, right? It's just another visual on the page. Now, you might have seen the announcement about this new DAX query view, which we're really excited about. Copilot is going to come here as well, right? So again, this is not available yet, but I can of course go and define all of my DAX queries, write my measures over here. But I can also basically use Copilot to help me with this authoring to again really accelerate that developer journey. So in this case, I'm just going to inline. It's very similar to the notebook experience Nelly was showing you. Show revenue by product, order by most profitable. And as I run this, again, we have our beautiful DAX code generated. I know that I will be using this a lot because my DAX knowledge is pretty rusty, so I'm looking forward to this capability coming out. But again, just really helping you kind of accelerate that kind of being able to even do things like write out your complex measures. Okay, so here's a couple of experiences that are available today, a couple of experiences that are going to be coming soon in Power BI. And so with that, I'd love to transition back to Nelly to really talk to you about how you can not just leverage Copilots for productivity or for insights, but really start leveraging it for building out applications powered by AI as well, both for pro developers, but also giving you a sneak peek of some of the low-code capabilities that are coming within this realm as well. So over to you, Nelly.
Thank you, Justina. Yeah, so as Justina mentioned, we have looked at all the different Copilot experiences now across the analytics workflow. But let's take a look at what we're doing for developers who want to build custom AI solutions, right? So we've talked about, we've been processing a lot of data, right, throughout these experiences. And data really is the fuel for AI, as we say. And all of this data now sits in one lake, right? And Copilot can sure help you to process and be more productive working on top of that data. But we want to do more here. So we also want to empower developers to be able to use natural language more as part of your programming. And one way that we're starting this journey is that we are starting to introduce new capabilities in our Spark library, SynapseML. This is one of the richest the richest machine learning library out there for Spark, but it's not just about machine learning. So what we're doing is that we are, we're calling it for now LLM programming, basically. How can you, as data scientists, data engineers, developers, whoever's using Fabric, for example, use our notebook experiences and use our library, SynapseML, that, by the way, this week also went GA with version 1.0. We're very excited about that. So it is GA in Fabric, so you can use this library. But it also has certain LLM APIs, you can say. And using these APIs, and this is a massively scalable library, right? So remember, it allows you to do ML and process things with AI at a massive scale because it's built for Spark. It's built for distributed workloads, basically. But it also can handle smaller scale data, so no worries about that. So how does this help you? Well, SynapseML LLM APIs in combination with Azure OpenAI now being built into Fabric is a great combo, right? And it's going to enable this LLM programming. And what do I mean by having Azure OpenAI built into Fabric, right? Well, of course, Azure OpenAI is powering all of these Copilot experiences, but we're doing more there. So for developers, we're giving you access to a built-in Azure OpenAI endpoint or gateway that you can use also from code as you're building out your own AI solutions, for example, in our notebooks. So it doesn't have to be that advanced that you have to go in and start a project. If you're not familiar with this, going in, like working elsewhere and building everything up in VS Code, you can of course do that, but you can actually get started in our notebooks with SynapseML, with a built-in endpoint, which means you don't have to pre-provision any resources in Azure. You don't have to bring any subscription keys. It's all built in. What you do is simply to call this endpoint and interact with the different large language models that are available in Azure OpenAI. You can choose, for example, GPT-3.5 Turbo, for example, that I'll show you in a bit. And then you can ask it to transform your data, build out solutions for you. So next, I wanted to walk you through what this experience can look like. And I wanted to kind of tie to a very simple use case for a data engineer. We have so many data engineers probably in this room, wondering how can I start leveraging large language models as part of the transformations, the daily work that I do, right? And I want to show you one of those examples, because normally, what I'm going to show you next, normally that type of experience would probably take weeks to build out, if not months. So we're actually going to start by looking at some data set, and we're going to ask an LLM to add a column and do some transformation for it. And you're going to see that it's definitely not multiple weeks project. You can do that in basically a single code cell. So let's move to a demo and look at that. All right. Hold on. All right, there we go. So here, I'm in a notebook, right? We looked at the notebooks before. And we have a data set that's containing product data. So basically, it's Amazon product data. This product data contains a lot of product descriptions and other information. So we're going to see here that we have the product data, and it's sitting in our lakehouse. And we're going to do something with this data. We're going to do something pretty simple. We're going to basically start by saying that we want to use SynapseML and the Fabric built-in endpoint using this data that's sitting in our Amazon products table here. And we want to add a column, and based on all the information that's in this table, we want to add a new column that is containing product category. And normally to build this type of a solution, you would have to basically have to go and parse the data, extract phrases from the data, build a classification model on top of that data to be able to classify into product categories. But now with large language models, this can be a lot easier, but also we can do this at much larger scale with SynapseML in combination with Azure OpenAI. So here you see the table, basically the type of data it contains. You see the product names. You also see the product specification column here, and you can see that it's not very easy to parse, but it's text. And I would probably need to write some a large amount of code to be able to even just parse and extract phrases from this. But yeah, let's take a look at how we can make this easier. I also love the way that Fabric notebooks make it easy to just explore the data, and you can just click on a row and you can just see the contents. But now let's take a look at, we've loaded the data in our data frame. We're just taking a look at some of the columns, the schema of the data, and some of the types, for example, just to get a better sense of this data. But again, as I mentioned, what we want to do is that we're not going to give the LLM necessarily any instructions of go and use this column or et cetera. We're just going to say, use whatever data you find in this table and just help me add a column. Here you can see that we're prepping for this call to Azure OpenAI. First, we're defining a few variables here. First and foremost, at the top there, you see that we're opening up essentially an Azure OpenAI chat session programmatically. We are not providing any subscription keys. I'm not referencing any resource IDs or anything in Azure because it's built in, right? So all I need to do as a developer is that I can define the model that I want to use. So in this case, the large language model that I want to use is GPT-3.5 Turbo. And I can set a few other settings like temperature, like if it, the level of verbose, and other types of, and there are more parameters that you can tweak here. And then I want to also instantiate a variable with my prompt, right? In this case, we're just keeping it to a simple prompt. Of course, you can build chains of prompts. etc. But in this case, we want to build a simple prompt and giving the instructions. You see here that what we're asking it to do basically is to determine product category. We want to use all information in the data set and also give it some examples. Just to be nice, we're giving the large language model a few examples. But then again, it's up to the large language model to give us the categories. And then we're creating something that we call an LLM chain. So what's interesting here is that we've actually added LangChain transformers, in this case, to our SynapseML Spark library. And this means that you can work more easily using LangChain functionality directly on Spark with SynapseML. Now, you may ask yourself, what is LangChain? Well, LangChain is one of the many frameworks that exist today, one of the more popular ones, but of course, we also support semantic kernel. And it's a framework to do programming and build solutions out on top of LLMs, basically. So if you're building custom AI solutions using LLMs, then LangChain is probably one of the frameworks that you're gonna find and see. So what we have done here is that, as you see there, we are importing from SynapseML a LangChain transformer. We're actually making this easier. So if you're a Spark data engineer or used to using Python, this is a much easier transition than having to learn to use a completely new framework. And it just makes it more accessible to, for example, data engineers. So as a data engineer, I can now instantiate this transformer. And we had our prompt earlier. And as we run this, you're going to be able to see that we're now calling out to Azure OpenAI using this LangChain SynapseML transformer with the prompt and all the instructions that we had. And now the result of this is going to be a new data frame, essentially, with a column added with the product categories. So let's take a look at that. Here we go. Here you see that we have the product category added. You can see that there are multiple different categories, not just the ones that we gave as examples, right? And if we take a look at one of these, for example, product names, just to make sure that it matches, for example, the home decor, you see here that it's some flower power peel sticker border, and the LLM categorized this as a home decor. So it seems to be doing pretty good, but just with one code cell or a couple of code cells, we could achieve this with OpenAI. So it's pretty powerful and very easy to get started for someone who's not familiar with all these new frameworks and et cetera. So recommend getting started with that in Fabric. All right. Now let's talk about other experiences that we're building out. So I also want to talk about some upcoming experiences that we have. For example, in Fabric, you're managing a lot of data. OneLake is going to, has tons of gravity, and you're going to have tons of your organizational data sitting in OneLake. How can we empower you to get more value of this data using generative AI? Or how can we do it in a way that democratizes this more, right? Because we looked at a lot of the code-first experiences, or I showed you a lot of the code-first experiences. Copilot can still help you, but what if you're a domain expert, you're an analyst, and you would actually want to do more and build out your own custom experiences using large language models and generative AI? Well, for this, we are introducing a new experience during next year. So this is on our roadmap. Just wanted to give you a sneak peek of this. And this is an experience that's going to empower anyone to really build out, to begin with, a Q&A, for example, a question and answering experience on top of your data that's sitting in tables. Imagine that. We have so much unstructured data, obviously, in OneLake, but we also in Fabric deal with a lot of structured data that's sitting in schemas, in tables. We want you to be able to tap into that data and enrich the context of the large language model and AI with additional context, and just create really good experts on your data that you can share, that you can embed in applications, and even reuse across the Microsoft stack. So for example, imagine you can build an AI skill that is an expert on your data sitting in a warehouse, for example, and then share that and reuse that in experiences from M365 Chat or even Azure OpenAI Studio to build out even more complex applications. LLMs. So let's take a sneak peek of that experience. All right, so we're going to move back into the demo. And let's see here if we can get the next one. Here we are. So what we're introducing here, as I mentioned, is going to be something that anyone can use, and that's really our goal, because one of the superpowers of Fabric is that it just democratizes a lot of these analytics and data experiences for developers of any skill level, right? So in this case, I can be a subject matter expert, I can be an analyst, and then I can go ahead and create a new type of item in Fabric. In this case, we're calling it AI skill, and I can give it a name. And remember that just as anything else in Fabric, if I give it a name, I create an item in my workspace, immediately I can set sensitivity labels on it, I can track the lineage, I can manage permissions. So this is not only an AI experience that you're just developing, you're actually getting all of those different benefits just by having this as an item in your workspace. So I can then go ahead and select a set of, a lakehouse in this case, or a warehouse that I want to use. In this case, I want to select that specific Customer 360 lakehouse. I can also select a set of tables to say, hey, I want to specifically focus on maybe these tables because they are central to the questions that are going to be asked. And immediately, I can start interacting using AI and ask questions on top of this data. Even without any configuration, this is an interactive experience, right? So I can ask it questions, and what it's doing behind the scenes is that it's actually generating SQL code. So this is a specific AI skill that the Fabric team is very proud of building out, which is NL to SQL, right? So it is actually generating a query for you, and you can interact with it. If you want, you can hide the query too if you're not interested in that, but ultimately, it can give you the query to give that transparency of how it got the data, right? So it's a very easy way to be able to interact on top of your data. But then you can also go and tweak it more. You can add more tables. You can, for example, you see there to the right that you can set additional context and some settings, and we're going to evolve these over time so you have much more configuration at your disposal. And in this way, you basically have an experience that can get you started no matter the skill level, and how familiar you are building out AI applications or AI skills for your applications. So here you see that we're asking another question, and if we refine the data, for example, and added a little bit more context, like the notes for the model, you see that I can explain some terminology, I can give it, some more context. In the future, maybe upload some documents to be able to give it even more context, and then I can build out that expert skill on my data, and now this skill can be combined with other skills. For example, from Azure OpenAI Studio, you can combine these and build out your own applications. So stay tuned for this experience. It's coming during 2024, and that was the sneak peek of that. We've showed you a lot of experiences today, a lot of demos of Copilot and how you build out your own AI solutions from code and using no code at all. And all of it is powered by Azure OpenAI. And just wanted to reiterate that we are very careful with how we handle our customers' data. Of course, that Microsoft Cloud runs on trust. This means that there are some fundamental promises that we make on top of your data. First, your data is your data. This means that it's yours, you control it. We're not going to do anything with it that you don't approve of. Second, your data is not used in any form of training, for example, of these foundational AI models. It's only your organization that benefits from your data and processes when using our AI services. And third, these AI models are protected, as you know, by the most comprehensive security and compliance policies in the industry. So we want you to trust that we handle your data with care. And we're so grateful that you wanted to attend this session, the last day of the conference, and that you took the time. We're sharing some links so that you can get started with some of these experiences that we showed you. And with that, I don't know, we're happy to answer questions, off stage. If you have any questions and want to come up to the front. And again, thank you for attending.
So there's some mics out. I think we can take one or two questions if anyone has anything. And me and Nelly will hang around afterwards if you want to come talk to us as well.
Please walk to Mike if you have a question.
Hi, how is it going to be with licensing?
Great question on licensing. So actually, I don't want to get it wrong. Nelly, you know all the details better than I do. So.
All right, we'll try. So we are working out the details of, like the actual licensing, but the guidance, these features that we showed you are available on certain SKUs. We are rolling it out. We already mentioned that, right? So gradually we're going to roll it out. But it also means that if you're on P1 SKUs and above and F64 SKUs and the Fabric SKUs and above, you will automatically have access to the Copilot experiences. So that's the current, our current policy.
Yeah.
One more question, I think.
Yeah, I think we can. Yeah, go for it.
Will this Power BI Copilot be available in the embedded Power BI?
I don't believe so. At least for now, as Nelly mentioned, it's in the premium and F SKUs, and it doesn't mean things won't change, in the future. It's just this is what we're starting the rollout with, and then, we'd love to hear your feedback. We'd love to hear the use cases, but I believe it's just the premium and F SKUs, not the embedded SKUs. But, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks everyone.
Yeah, thank you.